Hi, I'm Danielle with Stitch and Designs. Welcome back to my channel for today's Valentine's Day So Long Marathon from, oh my gosh, I'm going to probably say it wrong, K or Okoza. Apologies if I said it wrong. But today's marathon so long for all these other different tutorials, we're doing the Heartbreaker, and I'm a little oddball and doing a clear Ita Heartbreaker. So no joke, it's clear. So if you wanted to follow along and do a full clear bag, totally follow along with the tutorial. But also in the tutorial, I show you how to put in pockets. So we have a little snaps on the front and the back, and we have a pocket. And in a separate video, I'll show you how to make a pin board. Just for this bag, it does not use the same pattern pieces as the bag. So you can't use the Ita pin board to make the bag. It won't work. So it is a very specific shape and size. The proportions of it are definitely different. But there's a pin board for the front. And then for the back, if you choose to do a second pocket or not, your choice. And then you can snap it closed or leave it open. But you have a pin board for both sides. So I wanted to have fun with it, and so that's one of the things that I'm doing a little bit differently on my bag. But so this is what we're going to be making in today's So Long Marathon tutorial. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, let's get started with sewing our Heartbreaker bag. I want to preface this with, I apologize now if you hear dogs snoring, dogs barking, my husband watching a movie in the background, or just all the extra fun noises that you might hear in the background. I do apologize for that because I know my dogs will eventually freak out. That's what they do. They're good like that. Okay. Giving you an idea of what we're going to be doing. So let's just say that this is the inside of the material, and then the liner would be on top of this, so you wouldn't see this clear vinyl. And so this part, I want the top where the little dots are to be above my opening, but no, because if you do it too low, then you're going to be into the clear window, which will be a problem. So I want it low enough that it's still accessible, but high enough that it's not in the way of potentially being seen. And then this bottom one down here will be in the seam allowance, so that way it holds the inside of it. And I'm doing this on both sides, so if I mess it up on one, I still have the other one to hopefully get it right. And you could probably hear my dog snoring because she's so loud. Okay, anyway, so because this stuff has a little bit of fuzzy on the inside, I'm going to just take my lighter and just go around and kind of burn the ends. And just having the double-sided stick tape will make this part, especially if you're doing it with an accent, it just makes it so much easier to maneuver and work with. The first time I did the accent, I did not use double-sided stick tape, but thankfully this piece was larger, and it did go to my seam allowance, and so I just used my clips to be able to hold it in place. But this time I don't have that option, so double-sided stick tape to the rescue. We're just going to place our clear. And the clear vinyl, when you're placing this, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it's more to one side than the other, as long as your inner part of the accent, as long as the clear vinyl covers that, totally fine. And we're only going to be stitching this once, so let's grab our liner. Sorry, I bumped the camera. And for this one, because it is large enough, I can grab some of my clips. So we're going to stitch the accent piece and the clear vinyl, everything down. Oh, it was a pull out dog hair. Everything is going to be 1/8 of an inch. And just take your time going around here. There are some nice and easy curves, and then there's some a little bit tougher curves. So I'm actually going to start down here at the bottom. And I'm not going to be back stitching on this. I'm just going to hold my tails and continue on. And then when I get down to the end, when I get back to the beginning, I'm just going to pull everything to the inside. Alright, now that I'm back to where I started, I'm going to pull it out, leaving fairly long tails. And then just pulling, you're going to pull one side and then bring it, hopefully, okay, got the one. And so you're pulling your threads from the front to the inside. Hopefully. Come on. Where if you do a back stitch at the beginning and the end, it does make this part a little bit harder to do. So that's why sometimes doing this, if you know you're going to be pulling them in, just hold your tails and don't back stitch. And we're going to put a triple knot into this. These are my applique scissors. I got them from Chic Geek. I absolutely love using these things. If you are going to Sew Magical Expo, you'll be in my class kits. You'll be getting the purple pair of these. They are fantastic. Now if I can just kind of get a pinch started, because you don't want to accidentally cut through all the way through and accidentally cut your clear vinyl. Come on. There we go. So now that I'm in, I'm just going to go right along the edge of where I stitched before. And here we have either the front or the back. I'm going to move the camera real quick, sorry. And now we have the beginnings of the Ita. I'm just going to leave it there. All right, before I get too far away and do a kind of tack down the outer edges, because then that will also grasp the inner pocket, I need to add where my snaps are going to go. So I do kind of need to cut. I'm just going to use my regular scissors. I'm going to trace this bottom part onto the liner. Oh, and if I didn't say that before, you want to make sure the back part of your liner goes to the back of your front accent piece, so wrong sides together. If you put the wrong side facing this way, then it's inside out, which it happens. It's okay. You can always just uncut this if you had that, if that happened. Oh yeah, I needed these. So because I need to see the bottom of where my heart's going to go, I'm just going to trim away the liner piece. I don't want to go like super smaller or into the accent piece. Even if the liner's a little bit bigger than the accent piece, that's totally fine. I just needed to get more of a general idea of where it is at, because that's going to help me line up my inside pocket piece. So my bottom of my heart for the pocket piece is going to line up with the bottom part of the accent and liner. And I'm going to grab a few clips to put that on the clear vinyl are already there, and they are close enough to the edge. I'm going to use my little crocodile hole punch things. So I'm going to punch a hole in that one. And I'm going to punch a hole. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Punch a hole in that one. And from there, since those holes are now cut, I'm going to mark my marking pin the holes for where the liner part is going to be. Okay, so we're going to pull the liner, the pocket, clear pocket part away so I can see my holes. Let's see if I can get the cutting this on a cutting board. So you want to take the clear vinyl and the front accent piece and pull it away from your liner, because you only want to have this hole going through your liner piece. So then grab your little hole punch again. And that definitely doesn't take very much pressure to get through the liner. And again, pulling back the front accent piece and the clear vinyl from the inside. And we're only making the hole through the liner. And then I don't want to accidentally press this through the front liner because I don't want it to cause a crease. So I'm going to pull that away from the liner and the little cap thing. And then give that a nice press. Perfect. Put these in there, and again, make sure to pull that back because you don't want to accidentally cause it to crease your front. And then you want to make sure that your cap is on the outside, and you want to make sure that your innie and outies will face each other. So if you're not doing an eat-to window on this, you can totally skip over this part. You don't need to, this is not part of the normal pattern. This is just me being creative, or trying to be creative. Yay. Oh, those suckers are strong. Quick basting stitch onto my outer and my liners to help hold them all in place, and then it will catch part of the pocket liner for the inside, just a little bit in certain areas, but not the whole thing. So then we got that, and now we can trim off the excess of the liner. This is the idea of the Ita, the front or the back, whichever one turns out better. And then I can snap them in so it makes a nice little pocket. If you want to have a second pocket like I did on the back, go ahead and repeat all the steps that we did for this front one on the back one. Here we're going to set our front and back panel pieces aside. We're going to grab our zipper tape and I'm going to do a little fun heart zipper pull. And I'm going to wait to put that on until later. Just makes it easier. And then you're going to grab your main exterior gusset. I'm going to snip the middle on both sides. And then you're also going to grab your liner gusset and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to find your middle and put a little snip in both sides. And then on the zipper tape, I don't want to put a snip into it. You can if you want to, but I don't want to. But I'm just going to grab a marking pin and I'm just going to put a little mark where my center is. We're going to find our center of our zipper and we're going to line it up with the center of our gusset. And I'm just going to baste my zipper onto my gusset. And now we're going to grab our liner piece and we're going to put them right sides together with the main, and we're going to make like a little zipper sandwich with the zipper in between the two layers. And now we're going to sew these layers together at a 3/8 seam allowance. Now we're going to pull them and we're going to flip them and put wrong sides together. And I'm kind of pulling on the zipper one direction and then trying to line up my liner and my main piece together, and then just kind of pulling everything kind of apart so it wants to lay a little bit flatter. And then you can also finger press like as you're stitching as well, just making sure everything lines up. And yeah, I did cut my zipper intentionally a little bit longer, so not the end of the world. And if I didn't say it before, you're top stitching that whole thing at 1/8 of a seam, 1/8 of an inch for your seam allowance. And now's the time we're gonna grab our zipper. If you have one of those really cool like little zipper jig thingies, use that. If you don't, double check and look at your height of your zipper teeth. So mine are going in at like relatively even. So I'm gonna split them. And then when I put one side on, and then I can angle it and fish the other side in, you want to look down in, and then you want to make sure that your teeth, I know it's kind of hard to tell, but the teeth height on the inside are relatively even. And now you can see them, they're coming out the same height. So if one was coming in, like let's say this outer one was higher than this one, then it's going to be a little wonky, or vice versa. Because your teeth started even, or however your teeth are when you start, that's what you want to see when you put them in that way. And so I'm just going to hold that and then pull straight. And I have a nice looking zipper. All right, now let's grab our bottom gussets. And we're going to, I'm going to do the outer one first. So right sides together. I'm just going to baste this on. You can do an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch, totally your choice. I'm just going to do an 1/8. And now I'm going to grab my liner piece and I'm going to put that on the liner side, right sides together, and it's going to be centered. And we're going to sew through all layers at 3/8 of an inch. Well, sorry about that. I didn't realize my tablet had stopped recording, and because it ran out of space. So I had to go delete a few things. So I finished adding my label, and then I pulled my threads to the back and then knotted and tied it off. And then I took so I know it looks like a little pretzel thing that I got going on right now, but I put right sides of the liner of the bottom gusset with the other side of the bottom liner, or the inner liner, and I sewed those together through all the gusset layers at an 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now I'm gonna pull everything back. So now we have a beautiful loop, and I'm going to top stitch this at 1/8 of a seam allowance. And the funny thing is that I double checked that I put before I stitched that together, I double checked that I put my zipper pull on it, because honestly nothing is worse than getting all of your gusset done or putting on your zipper tabs and realizing, oh shoot, I did not put on my zipper pull. Because I don't know how many times I can tell you that I have forgotten to add my zipper pulls. You get in that mindset and that mode, and you just kind of escapes you. And then to help get over my zippers, I use my little snips, and I push it up against the zipper, and I push. And that helps me get up and over my zipper tape, so that way it's not just sitting there stitching the same exact spot. Alright, we are getting there. Alright, so an optional thing that you can do is go around and baste these layers on this side together, which I'm going to do. Doing that just makes it easier to work with all the different layers. Well, not so many layers, but just the in and out, just so that way it's one thing like this side. And if I could do the exact same thing right here, but it's such a small piece, I'm not going to really fret over it. And so to find the middle of the bottom of my gusset, where I want to put it around the point of my heart, I want to line up those where the gussets where I did the little top stitching, and I'm going to put a little snip flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Oop. Yeah, depending on what you're snipping, you gotta be careful because, yeah, I've had one end up in my eye. That felt fantastic. Okay, and then, so that's my bottom. So I'm just gonna, so we are gonna start by stitching down our bottom because it is a lot easier if you do stitch the bottom first. And we're gonna put the correct sides together, lining up the bottom, and this is where you're gonna want lots of clippy doodles. And start by putting a few on each side, and honestly doing some staples in this really helps. So I'm going to do some staples at 1/8 of an inch if I can, and then I still like to put a clip over the top of it. And then I'm going to do the other side with a staple. Oh, well, that didn't work. Alright, come on, stapler. Yay! This is just a cheapy stapler that I got from the store because I wanted to, I'd never used staples, and so I wanted to try it. They work, they're very helpful. They're very helpful. Also a pain in the butt sometimes, they can get in the way. So if you want to do the staples, it is completely your choice, your preference. And go to from the other side. Let me see if I can. I don't know if that added some. Turned on another light. Hopefully that added some. And then you're just working around the corners, and then I usually so I'm doing the staples at roughly 1/8 of an inch. So where I had the basting stitches before, I'm doing the staples roughly in that area. From the bottom or the inside where my accent, you can see my thumb there, and I'm just kind of holding that accent piece up. I kind of missed it. Let's go try again. Okay, got that one. Oops, totally missed that one. Alright, come on. Yeah, got that one. Now you don't need to do them every single inch if you want to, if you don't want to. It's personal preference. Wherever you feel like you're gonna need it the most. same thing that I did on the other side. I'm going to put my thumb on the inside of the bag against the accent piece to just kind of help it from wanting to push down, so it keeps the pieces, the gusset and the inside or the outside, lined up. Yay. So I am putting the back of the bag down flat against it, because then it's going to push the gusset out into my area that I need to work on. If you want to do it from this way, it's fairly easy to do it this direction around the straight curves, the bottom, and then you get up to a certain point. Oh, you guys can't see. So if you do it this way, from here to the bottom and then around, fairly easy. But it's when you start getting up in here, it makes it a lot harder. Where if you have it this direction, it might be a little tricky to get everything to want to lay flat and stay lined up. But when you get up here to the point, it is a lot easier to work with. Like I did all 3 of my bags this way, or let me rephrase that. I did one side the other direction, and it was a lot harder to do the top. I had to like start, stop, go back and forth a few times because I struggled with it. And then once I realized, oh, let me try flipping it the other way, it went smoother. There are times where it can get a little tricky, but it does go smoother and it's a little bit easier. And there are some things that can help with that. And so we are basting this together. Not necessarily an 1/8 of an inch baste, but at like a 1/4 inch, because you're going to sew this at 3/8 of an inch when you do your binding on it. So you can do a 1/4 inch or a little bit under a 1/4 inch, because the biggest thing is, especially when you get to the top, when you do your binding on it, you don't want to see your initial stitching. So you want to make sure that you're stitching, you're not doing 3/8 and then trying to do 3/8 on top of it. It's harder to match it up, especially when you get up to that top. So be generous, be nice to yourself. About a 1/4, maybe a little under a 1/4, whatever you want to do. And then I will show you what I do when I get around. Oh, gotta fix my stitch length. Feel better. So I'm going at just a little more than 1/4, or no, sorry, a little bit more than an 1/8. So not quite a full 1/4, so I'm kind of somewhere in there, but I'm enough away that I'm not running over my staples, but I'm not so far that I'm gonna see my stitching when I go to do my binding. Okay, our first challenge, because I started on the one side and then that way I hit the bottom and then go up. You do not want to do a true point on these. You don't want to do it to a true V. You want to do more like a curvy V. And that will help with with the tension, and when the stitching pulls and stuff, especially on the top, it makes it a lot easier if you do more of a relaxed curve. So as we get here towards the bottom point, I'm going to turn and do 2. And then I'm going to start curving upward. And I'm going to start just by doing 1 first. And then keep going. And then when you get to that part where you top stitch with the gusset to the bottom gusset, it can kind of push you around a little bit. But just take your time through there, especially on this just basting. It can push you around. But then when you do your 3/8 inch with the binding, because you have more of your foot on there, it's a little bit easier. So my left hand is inside the bag, and I am kind of pushing pulling the gusset away from where my needle is going down, and but I'm also like pushing it back to make sure that it stays lined up with my outer piece. So it's doing a kind of like a push-pull combination thing. But I'm not pushing or pulling like super hard, but I am just kind of bending the gusset out of my way so I can, one, see what the heck I'm doing, and two, I'm not going to accidentally stitch over something that I shouldn't. But it's also just nice to have it there, because then it's just kind of helping to keep my my gussets in line and my pieces all lined up together. Alright, so now we're starting to get into where more of my staples were, and if you did staples too, just be mindful. And then this is where you can start to see things, because there's a lot of weird pulling going on. This is where you can start to see your stuff separating. And this is, especially in this curve right here at the top, it is really important, one, that you don't take a big seam allowance. You want to stay on the lower side because you don't want to accidentally see it. You don't want to see it when you put your binding on. And then you also want to make sure you're not doing a true solid point, because when it's all said and done and you turn it out, there's gonna be a lot of tension on that one single point, and you're gonna see that those threads come through even if you do a second line through here. All right, so it's kind of, the points don't want to line up. Let me see if I can zoom you guys in so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, hopefully. Apologies for moving the camera. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing a little better without the clips being in the way. So I'm trying to pull, my thumb is pulling that top, or the gusset, to keep those lined up. And then remember, as you're getting to this point, you want to do, just like we did at the bottom, you want to do a relaxed point. So you want to do a couple stitches in this point. And then a few across, and now we're gonna start the ascent back up the other direction. Ooh. And then again, just trying to keep everything lined up. Pushing my fingers right there on the other side, so just trying to push out that gusset to try to be as close to it as possible. And then I stitched over where we started a little bit, and then I back stitched a few. And we've finished doing our first row of stitching on this side. Ooh, look at all those clips. All right, let's turn it out. Or actually, I'm gonna take my staples out first. I had a big old fat pucker right there. I can see that already. Let's see if we can fix that, because that's not good. I don't like that. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So I'm just kind of snipping this, because I can always go back in. Okay. And this can happen, and if it does, it's nothing to the world. Okay. Alright, I'm going to grab my staple, and I'm only going to put one point in, hopefully. Okay, let's just see if I can just do this on its own. Okay. Okay, we're gonna do I'm gonna do a relief cut on this one. I'll do a few relief cuts right in here. And I'm just doing the relief cuts on the gusset, not on the front piece. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, that should hopefully look decent. Hopefully. Okay, let's try this again. That seems to be my mantra. Let's try this again. So that started to turn up. You guys can, I don't know, I think you guys can see what I'm doing, hopefully. Because hopefully what I'm goofing up on, you guys can learn from and do better on yours. Okay, let's see. Do a few across. Okay, hopefully. Now let me zoom you guys back out. Sorry, I forgot I had you guys zoomed in. Couldn't see exactly what I was doing. And I still got that pucker. But let's turn this to see what we're looking at first. Maybe with a 3/8 inch seam allowance on it, it will help. Okay, so it's not horrible. So I see a little thread. Let's cut that. Do a little heat on those. And then I do have some of my holes from previous stitching, but again, we still have to go put the binding on it and add the 3/8 inch. So that's the nice thing. If you do a smaller seam allowance, it's forgiving, because then you can go back in, and then as long as you don't have goofs like I just did on your 3/8, you'll be able to get through. But that looks pretty darn good. I am fairly proud and fairly happy with that. Now we just need to add the binding, and then part of our bag will be finished. So I cut my binding, I know the standard is like 1 inch or whatever. I cut mine bigger than 1 inch, so like 1 1.25 inch, 1 3/8. So your preference on that. Because I personally like to have it bigger, because then I know both sides are being caught. Because sometimes when I've done the 1 inch and I'm going the other side, it misses the other side. It's like, no, and then you got to go back through and re-stitch that area, and they end up having like 2 or 3 stitch lines over there, and it's just like, that looks so bad. So we're doing an 1 inch and 1.25 inch, 1 3/8 binding. You're gonna get it, and then all you have to do afterwards is just go back in and trim it. No big deal. Okay, so here's a fun little trick that but here's something that I did on mine to make my binding at the top look nice. So I'm going to turn my chair so hopefully I line up with the camera. So I'm clipping, and so I go down into the point like so, and then add a little clippy doodle there. maybe a little higher because it's not in my way. And then I go back on itself a little bit. So go kind of see how when you go to the point, it wants to naturally do that thing, or go back. So you see there how it kind of wants it makes that crease indentation. So my finger on the inside holding that crease. I'm going to then push back on the binding and push it down, so then I create that fold, that crease there on it. And then add a clip there in the center. Oop, I think I grabbed too much material. There we go. And continue on. Maybe outside, inside. What happened on this side? What did we do? Okay, so it's gonna go down that far. Okay, that's fine. So if you wanted to make a clear window bag, you can do the exact same beginning part as me. Just do the accent piece, cut a large liner piece so that way you're not having to line it all up. And then you can do a single clear, pretty printed liner or clear vinyl on the piece. You don't have to do a second one for a window, or if you wanted to do a second one, and you can have a pocket on the inside, totally your choice. And then even on the bottom one, so on back to the binding, I pinch here at the base of the cart, and then I'm going to kind of push it back so that way I'm going in the direction, so it's like a change of direction. So, and make a nice little fold. So I will put it under light so you can see that fold, how I've pushed it back, and then it just makes a nice little crease and point there. And then I just keep going, and now I am back where I started. And I don't do anything fancy. I just go over where I started here, so I'm just it's gonna overlap each other by a little bit. Not a lot, but enough. And I'm also, again, I'm going to start on the opposite sides of my bottom, so then I will make this bottom curve, and then I will end on the straightaway. It just makes it easier to, at least I find it easier for myself. And then I don't have to fight this curve at the end. And it's like, yay, it's done. And I'm going to stitch this down at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. If you do not want to, before I do that, now that I see it, I had it here. I left it there for a reason. It's so close to the top. I don't want to lose the I'm. I should have put it here. That's where I really should have put it. Man, why didn't I think about that? That would have been nice. Or I could have, no, because I could have fought that. Nope, can't put it in there now. Well, let's just throw it in. Hopefully. Well, let's see where the 3/8 seam allowance is, and then I know how far to put it in first. I want to use my cute little sewing blurb. Okay, so it's not that. And then again, I am going to be cutting the binding back, so whatever I can't see, hopefully when I cut it back, I can then, I'll be able to see the I'm again. And just to make sure, let's test it. Tug it, tug it, tug it, tug. Yeah, it's in there. Yay. Okay, moving on. And just like we did before with this point or this curve, you do not want to do an exact point. You want to do like a kind of a relaxed V point. So you want to do a couple stitches across the bottom, so that way you don't have a solid point. So but you want to go down relatively to a point. There you go. And then lift. Couple stitches across, and then can do a few more kind of relaxed ones, and then back into the 3/8. And then as I'm going, I'm trying to make sure that my binding is staying tight to the top of the curve or the edge of my, I guess, the gusset and the body. So just take your time around the curves. And then I'm flattening it out. So I'm just doing a little bit at a time, and then when I lift my foot, I'm trying to flatten the area that I'm going to stitch, so that way hopefully I limit the amount of puckers that I'm going to get. Hopefully. Okay, we are in the point. I just did a little bit of a curve, stitch, another little curve, stitch, little curve, stitch, little curve, stitch, little curve. Okay, and now I'm going back up towards the other side, and it's at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And so just doing those little micro turns will hopefully help alleviate the tension in having a true center point. And then we'll make a nice pretty heart. Yay! Alright, we are back at this beginning. I'm going to do a little schmelting of my thread. I'm going to grab my applique scissors just because I find them easier to use for in this case. And I'm going to go around and trim. I don't know if you can hear my dog. Or one of them. That one was Willow. My husband came and closed my workroom door so he could watch a movie without disturbing the video. And so he closed my door, and so my kids are, I can hear him laying and rubbing up against my door, and now Willow's whining. So, but I find my applique scissors are easier. It's easier for them to get in to these curves. I cut off a little bit of the I'm, but you can still see it. I'm sewn into you. Yes, you are. You are sewn into this. All right, now we get the frip and do the other side. Okay, so there's the inside, all nice and cut, and then here's the other side. It looks good with it trimmed up. Yay! And then, yeah, these peel back far enough that if you wanted to put stuff in there, you could put stuff in there. Yay! Oh, and yay. So when you flip it in, I have one little stitch hole right there, but that's really not that bad. I'll take it. I will take that, especially because it's the back. I will definitely take that. All the lovely dog hair. Okay, halfway there. All right, now to do the other side. Okay, now we just need to do the front, and then, well, I would say this bad boy is done, but I still have the gusset, or not the gusset, but the crossbody strap to do. That's the nice part about doing it at the beginning, and then it's like, when you finish the bag, it's like, I'm done! But, no such luck. I still have one more thing to do. So with this, just really take your time in these curves. That's honestly my best advice that I can give, is just take your time. They're very doable curves. I've honestly done some bags where I've freaking ended up hating the curves, and I hated the way it turned out, and I have yet to touch them do that pattern again. Where this one, this is now my fourth one, so yeah, is it tough? Yeah, it can be tough, but is it doable? Very much so. Very, very much so. And especially once you've gotten your first one under your belt, you learn little things that you, from either watching the tutorials or just from doing them yourself, and you learn, you improve every single time that you do these. I know I've personally gotten better. Okay, that totally missed. I've gotten better with each one that I did. There's a couple times where I'm like totally just goofed, but it happens. Not every time is going to be perfect. Not every time is going to be beautiful. But that's what makes handmade handbags unique. They're handmade. And of course, we are our own worst critics when it comes to stuff that we make. We're the ones that are going to see the flaws. We're going to see the mistakes. But not everybody will. And if somebody loves it, they love it. Especially like when you give, if you make this for yourself, you make this for a gift, people are just going to see the time that you spent on it and know like how much heart and love went into it, which means more. And I need to undo these. I don't quite have enough working space. For that top crease. Come on. Okay, let's. You pocket are kind of in my way. Alright. Clearly the top is harder for me than the bottom. Okay, so I have the gap here in the middle. Oof, that's gonna be tough. I might, I think the staples are going to probably be more of a hindrance than they are going to be beneficial when it comes to this one. Because I think if I remember correctly, I think the last one that I did, I didn't even put clips or anything up here, and as I was just going, I was just pulling stuff into place, and it honestly, I think if I remember correctly, it just seemed to go easier than trying to sit and fight with staples. So I'm going to undo again, because that's my mantra today is let's try that again. But I'm not going to do the staples again. We're just going to kind of go for it. Alright, so I'm going to leave the bag unzipped They'll make life a little bit easier. And just like we did with the bottom or the back, I'm going to start on the one side of the bottom gusset and then work my way around. And for myself, I'm going to be doing a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to continue to do that one because that's what I did before on my other ones. Sorry. This is going to be between 1/8 and 1/4 for basting. When I go to put the binding on, I will be doing the 3/8 inch. So don't do the 3/8 right now. You're just going to be doing the basting between 1/8 and 1/4. Hopefully I don't run over this staple. Kind of got slid down a little bit. And yeah, doing the back first is definitely easier than trying to do the front first. But now that something is there, it is a little bit tougher, but still doable. Okay, and then like we did on the front, do a few going across. I think I ended up doing more going across on this one than I did on the back, but that's okay. Now that we're on the upper part, it'll be a little bit easier, especially with the bag unzipped. Oop, I forgot to zip that staple. Okay, so now we're going to get into we're going to start lining up as we go. And then if you want, you can kind of like bend your back piece kind of out of your way, so then it's not causing problems. And then I'm going to pull my pocket liner piece out of the way. And then little curves or little turns. Okay, something is overly tight on this zipper because it is not wanting to lay pretty right now. So because it's kind of wanting to have a pucker here, you can see that bulge. I'm going to pick out some of this and pull out these staples. And then kind of redo this bottom curve again, if I can. Maybe that will help a little bit. Oh yeah, because it kind of goes wide over here and it hangs off the edge a little bit more. So it's taking up some real estate. And then same kind of over here, so I'm gonna go to about here. Not exactly what I wanted to do, but I'd rather have it look good or the best I can. So, and then plus, if you have the same issue, then hopefully this will help you figure out what to do. Because that's the whole part of tutorials, is to learn how to do stuff. My mistakes and all. But that's how we learn. We learn by doing and learn by making mistakes. Come on, let's get in there. And again, this is the nice part about doing a narrower basting than your final seam allowance. Because if you goof up and you have to do stuff like this, it's going to get covered up when you do your bigger, the final seam allowance, which is bigger. So, yeah. I would not do a 3/8 on top of a 3/8 personally. I don't like to do that for any of the bag making, because it's like it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for if you to make stuff, try to line it up, and when you turn it, because then you can see your previous stitches and stuff like that. So, but everybody's different, so it is all your choice. And I guess this would have been nice if I would have actually stitched that together, because I remember I said it's not a big deal. Well, it would have been helpful. It definitely would have been helpful to have this part of the gusset on the top part actually stitched together. Okay, I'm gonna have to do some creasing and crinkling and And that is why my hand should have been there. Ah, I sewed through the gusset, the part that I shouldn't have been able to sew through. Dang it! Well, you guys are seeing all sorts of mistakes, but it's how you've learned from them. All right. Okay, well, at least you don't, it's not super bad on the inside, or what would be the outside. Okay, I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? I'm just going to go back to this corner and try again. Or because I can go this direction. Alright. No, not like it. Let's do some clips on this one now. So, note to self, next time that little bit of gusset, baste that together because that would make life a lot easier at this moment. Sorry if I'm like doing it on my lap, so it's harder to see. Okay, so I just have a little bit of excess right here in the curve, which isn't the end of the world. I can always trim that off, so that way it stays, my gusset or my binding will be easier. Okay. Whew, made it through that. Alright, let's smelt some of this excess thread that's all over here. And I'm going to trim off this corner just a little bit. So, not a ton of corner cut off, but just a little bit. And it's not going to make that big of a difference because it's a crossbody and you can't really let it sit like on its point anyway, so it'll end up laying on its side. So it's all good. All right, where did my other binding? There it is. Okay, dokie, last step on the actual physical bag. And then I just need to switch out my thread color, and then I can do my crossbody strap. Okay, so we're gonna go into the corner, and I'm pushing in kind of a little bit past the point, and then pushing the waterproof canvas binding back on itself a little bit, maybe not quite fully past the point. Somewhere a little past the point. And you're just gonna make like a little crease right there. There you go. So then it keeps it nice and close as you're going around that corner. And then it just makes it look, gives it a nice look. Again, you don't have to do that. That's just something I do. What is this? It is a very long loose thread. I'll always snip more later. Okay. And then when you're going around these upper curves, because you just have the zipper tape up there, you don't want to accidentally bunch up your zipper tape. So as you're pushing down on your binding, you want to make sure that you're pushing your zipper tape like down as well. So it's not necessarily down and then you're pushing down and you're just fighting yourself, but you're pushing it down so it's not bunching, if that makes sense. Because you don't want to create a pucker in your zipper, which would make it harder to open. Okay, coming down to our point, and just like we did last time, you come down to your point and see how it naturally wants to like fold back on itself there. You're just gonna kind of help push it back, and then just create a nice crease. You can see the seam there. It just creates a nice crease right there, and then it just helps you make a change of direction. Okay, see how like when I first pulled it over, the top of the zipper was folded over? You want to make sure that your zipper at the edge of it isn't folding over, and then you want to make sure that it's extended all the way down so you don't create weird puckers in your tape. I cut it longer than where I actually, because it started here, but I'm going to end it further so they will overlap. Not a lot, but just enough. Alrighty. Let's get ready to rumble. I'm sorry. My brain has all sorts of weird things. Jeez, everything's going to stick to the clear vinyl. Okay, so we're gonna go the top or front side down, and the zipper or the bag is unzipped all the way. I'm going to start on the one side and then go around the bottom and then work myself around. And I personally am going to be doing a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You have the complete option to do a 1/4, 1/4 inch seam allowance. That is completely your preference if you want to have a little bit more space between the zipper and the gusset. Let me show you an example real quick. So this was one of my first ones that I did, and you can see here how close the top is, and that's at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. If you want to do a 1/4, it will give you a little bit more tape room. But that opens and closes really easily, so that one is a personal preference on that. Okay, let's get going. This is where having a stiletto would be nice. And like we did before, I'm kind of pressing down where I'm going to be stitching, so it kind of helps hopefully reduce the puckerage, and just like a bulk, especially like in this corner, I can see it wanting to all bulk up right there. So I'm going to push it out of the way. And again, you don't want to do a true hard point. You want to do a couple, so like soft curves, and then when you get to towards the bottom, a couple across, and then another curve up. Use my pencil, there we go. There we go. Yes, that would be nice. I need to get myself one of those. Okay. Push that around the arm. Okay. So in truth, am I doing like I am on the 3/8 inch line? No, I'm just a little bit under. To actually tell the 100% truth of what seam allowance I'm using. Again, I'm using my fingers to press the zipper tape down so I don't get a curve to come up and cause a pucker in my tape if I can help it. It's not foolproof. Just be really careful that you don't accidentally sew over your fingers, because that would really hurt and suck. And then you'd get blood on your project. Sorry, I have a really messed up sense of humor. I blame my time when I was in the fire service and EMS. Okay, we're getting to the top point. Okay. Little curves or little turns. Back up to the other side. Woohoo! We made it back to the start. I backstitched a few. Yeah. And then let's go do some schmelting. That stuff smells. No! Son of a biscuit. It was too good to be true. Too good to be true. Woe is me. Alright, well at least it's not in like the hardcore point. Of course, it was on like the last straightaway. Of course. Okay, so I'm just gonna go a little above it. And just following the stitches. Okay, well, caused a little pucker in that, but it's okay. All right, let's grab our applique scissors and we're going to trim away our binding. One side done. Frip, frip. And now we do the other side. Okay guys, we are at the point we get to turn. The cool thing about this bag, and because it's got such a big zipper, it's easier to turn. Or birth, or whatever you want to call it. Well, it's easy. Well, easier than some. So just take your time. You don't want to accidentally like poke through your clear vinyl. Yeah, and then push that up. Oh, get a couple long threads from where I had to go back and redo. Alright, and we'll just take the lighter and just be very careful. My fingers on the inside and I'm kind of pushing this corner edge out and then run my nail down. All right. Sweet. Yeah. Okay, so another option, if you wanted to do this, I'm not going to, you can top stitch this. And top stitching, and then when you do the top stitching, you can tuck your binding down and then just stitch all along this and just tuck your binding. It is not required, it's not a necessity, it is optional to do. Alright, let's give this a zip up, we'll close it. So yeah, we just tuck the binding down in there. First time zipping is usually the toughest. And there we are. Push that out. Yeah. Playing with it a little bit and then helping to push stuff out. Let me go. There you go. Now you can see a little. Oop. Sorry, I'm going to tilt the camera up. Here we go. So having kind of working it, pushing it out, it will help it as well, and then plus once it's as it sits in here. But here is the Ita Heartbreaker, and then it's got the hidden D-ring straps, and then my wow, that's crooked. Don't mind that. Okay, so I'm gonna go through this really quickly and point out where my goofs were. So doing the bottom corner, like that looks pretty darn good. Like I'm not gonna complain about that. I did have I have one little thread that sticks out here. Let me get my flashlight so we can see it a little bit easier. So, I don't know. I'm trying to show you guys, and it's a little hard. So I have one little thread that sticks out right there. So I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's all good. And then on the front, that looks pretty darn good. I am very happy with that, how that turned out. And then on the front, I just had that. If I would have just stitched that down or like basted this part of the gusset, it would have made life a little bit easier. And then instead of starting, if I were going to do this part again, instead of starting over here on the other side of the bottom, I probably would have started on this side, then gone around and then met back here. We're starting here and then kind of forcing the bottom, and that's where I had to undo it, because then this, my excess, my wiggle room got caught up down here, and so then that's why I had the tension issue over here. But so let's open it up. It opens up really nicely. And then for the Ita pockets, they are accessible by snap. Snap. All right, let's throw something in there just because we can. Wait. Snap. All right, let's throw, and then let's do the other side. Let's just throw some clips in there just because we can. But yeah, that looks freaking awesome. I am super happy with how that turned out. Cool. Well, minus my little dent. It's gonna happen. It's all good. Cool. Now all I have to do is turn that into a strap, and then I have an awesome, really cool bag. Well, thank you guys for watching and following along with this tutorial. I hope you really enjoy the little heartbreaker and the heartbreaker. So let me grab the little heartbreaker. So this is the little heartbreaker, and this is the crossbody backpack version. So you can see the size difference right there between the two of them. This one comes with the side accent piece. Pretty simple. The same process to do this one is to do this one. The seam allowances for everything are the same. It's just your zipper tape length is going to be a little bit different. And of course your pattern pieces are different sizes, but the methods and little things that I did to attach everything together, I do the exact same in this bag. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them below and I will try to get back to them. If at any time you like something in this, please give me a thumbs up. I hope you guys can like and subscribe, and look forward to the next tutorial. Have a good one. Bye.